Hello, this is candidate master Viktor Neustroev, and this is the third game of the tiebreak, actually the last game. The score was 2-0 in Magnus Carlsen's favor, so all he needs just to make a draw in the third or fourth game, and he becomes a champion. That's why here he played for a draw. But then, okay, you'll see everything in the game. E4. Magnus Carlsen is playing with white pieces. Fabiano Caruana is playing with black. Previously, he played E5 and it was a Russian game. But Russian game has, or Petrov defense, in other words, Petrov defense has many drawish tendencies. That's why here, because Fabiano Caruana needs to win, he started with C5. Knight f3 and e6, so it's gonna be Paulsen or Khan variation or Taimanov variation. C4. a6 leads to Khan variation, but Fabiano Caruana played knight c6. d4. C takes on d4, knight takes on d4. Bishop c5. Knight c2. Another popular move here is knight b3. Then bishop e7, knight c3, knight f6, f4, castle, then queen f3, knight goes to b4, e5, knight e8, so here knight c2 doesn't make sense. The position will be slightly better for white after king d1, so knight goes to e8, queen e2, d6. E takes on d6, knight takes on d6, bishop a3, and if only here black plays b5, he will be better. For example, c takes on b5, knight d5, knight takes on d5, e takes on d5, castle, bishop f5, the king here is really weak, rook takes, rook c8, and then queen a5, so the position is really dangerous for white. The king is in trouble and almost everything is hanging, so black is winning. But here after bishop c5, Magnus Carlsen didn't play knight b3, he played knight c2. Knight f6, knight c3, castle, and bishop e3. That's a novelty in this position. Previously in the games it was played bishop e2, then d5, c takes d5, e takes on d5, e takes on d5, knight b4, trading the pieces, and then black won back the pawn on c3. Then the game ended in a draw. But Magnus Carlsen played bishop e3, he considered this move to be more safe. b6, with the idea to support the bishop and at the same time to develop the other bishop to b7. Bishop e2, bishop b7, castle, queen e7, queen d2, rook fd8, rook fd1, so they just play typical move. Knight e5 is a typical idea, f4, knight g6, that's a typical maneuver when the knight goes from c6 to e5 and g6 in Paulsen or Khan variation. Queen e3, so the position is approximately equal and they both make good moves, nobody blunders. Rook d2, a6, rook d8, so here white wants to increase the pressure on d6, queen c7, b3, h6, g3, rook d7 with the idea to double the rooks. Bishop f3, occupying this diagonal, rook e8, queen f2, knight goes to e7, so another position for the knight. h3, white wants to advance his pawn on the king side, rook e d8, finally he doubled the rooks, bishop g2, knight c6, g4, queen a5, taking this knight, then knight goes to a4. with some possible ideas to take on c5, so maybe after g5. That's why queen goes back to protect the rook on d7. And in this position, g5 could lead to a sharp position where white is slightly better. For example, h takes on g5, f takes on g5, knight h5, and then the knight there will be the object of the attack. Knight b2, e5, knight d3 to prevent knight to f4 move. And then white plays bishop f3, knight f4, and the pawn on f4 becomes now weak. But here Magnus Carlsen, who was playing for a draw, played e5 with the idea just to trade the material on the d file. D takes on e5, knight c5. Rook takes d2, then they traded all the rooks. So now white is threatening to play f takes on e5 because of the pin here. But he played bishop a8. If g5 now, then knight h5, f takes e5, and the position is approximately equal after queen e5. This knight is under attack. But white played f takes on e5, so Magnus Carlsen decided to simplify the position. Queen takes on e5. Knight d7 with the idea to trade. Knight takes. Then if queen takes, then even white is slightly better because of this knight's position, so it prevents the queen from giving any checks. The knight on c6 is also hanging, and white is going to give the check on the back rank and take the bishop on e8. That's why in this position after knight d7, queen b2 was played. Queen d6, threatening to play queen f8, then knight f6 and queen f7, forcing a perpetual check. For example, queen c2, queen f8, king h7, knight f6, g takes on f6, queen f7, then queen f8. It will be a perpetual check. So queen d6, knight has to take on d7. Queen takes on d7. Now it was better to for black to prevent queen c8, but actually it's difficult to do. So that's why he played queen c2. Now queen e8 or c8, doesn't matter. Queen takes on a8. Usually queen and knight is better than bishop and knight, because then can create more different combinations, and they can be quite successful in the attack. But in this position, the bishop standing on g2 is more important, and that's why the position is equal. So it occupies the open diagonal, it threatens to take on c6, and if knight moves, then bishop e4 is a threat. That's why here black needs to play with the queen to get away from this diagonal. Queen d1, king h2, queen d6, another check, king h1, knight goes to d4. Queen e4 check. So the position is drawn, but Fabiano Caruana decided to play for a victory. He played f5, g takes f5, e takes f5, queen e3, aiming to play bishop d5. Knight e6 was played, b4. And in this position, black made a mistake. To make a draw, he could just give a check on d1 or even play knight f4, c5, then queen d1, then he trades. And in this queen in game, there are lots of drawish tendencies because of the perpetual check. But he didn't play knight f4. Instead, he played knight g5, and after c5, white is better. Queen f6, c6, and another mistake. Queen d6 was a better move that could give black chances for a draw, but Fabiano Caruana played knight e6, trying to catch the pawn on c7. a4. Now the position is winning for white. Knight c7, queen f4, attacking that knight, knight e6 back. That was a mistake again. A better move was knight a8. But then white wins anyway after b5. Then he has two passed pawns, and they are connected, so it's quite difficult to stop them. But Fabiano Caruana played knight e6 in this position. Queen d6, queen a1 check, king h2, and knight d4. If, for example, queen e1 in this position, that was slightly better than just b5. There are no checks for the king. And after c7 in this position, white wins. Oh, actually, the position was already lost. Knight d4, c7, queen c3, intending for queen d2, and then maybe knight f3. Queen c5, queen e3. Queen e3 here. But white just promote a pawn to the queen. f4. There are no counterplay for black, so queen g4. Now the other queen goes to the king side, and here black resigned. If, for example, f3 in this position, then just one of the queen takes on d4, and white wins. But after queen g4, the game was ended, and the score became 3-0 in Magnus Carlsen's favor. And that's why then Magnus Carlsen became a champion. So he won on tiebreak with the score 3-0. My congratulations to Magnus Carlsen. That was a really good play on the tiebreak. However, I also liked how he played during the main games of the match. Okay, but you see how good Magnus Carlsen was playing for a draw. And finally, when Fabiano Caruana decided to play for victory, he made a mistake with knight g5, and after c5, white pawns will be promoted. That was the critical mistake here. Thank you for your attention.